What is the number one thing holding people back? I mean, there's 5 words that come to mind, like, or there's a bunch of words that come to mind. Which one is it? It's a combination of all these. Your laziness, right? Your laziness, your excuses, right? What's holding people from coming, or, becoming they're supposed to become? I'll actually wrap it into one thing. It's actually that you just don't know who you really are. And here's what I mean by that. I know people hear that a lot and they think that's basic, right? Yeah, it is basic. And you know what's funny? The oldest questions and the hardest questions to answer usually result in the oldest answers, right? How do you solve, like, how do you fix your marriage? Well, look at the 5,000-year-old answer. And by the way, I'm stealing this from Alex Hormozi because I thought he had a video that said this beautifully, where he said, if you want to fix your marriage, look to the 5,000-year-old answer to how to have a good marriage, right? If you want to save more money, look at the 5,000-year-old answer, because currencies have always changed. There's been so many different world currencies and all these different governments. What has always worked from the beginning of time, right? So the oldest answers that tend to be the most cliche are, and ultimately, the best answers. So if someone were to ask me what's the number one thing keeping me from my full potential, I'll say it's the oldest answer of all. Who are you? The oldest question, the oldest answer of all. Who are you? Most people will sit here and say, "Oh, I'm Timothy," or "I'm, so and so," or whatever the name is. It's like, okay, you don't know. You don't know. I can see it in your eyes when I ask you that question. I can see it in anyone's eyes if I ask, "Who are you?" You don't know. Because if I asked that, I would see the fire in your eyes spark. I would know if you knew. Once you know who you are, truly, not just, oh, someone has told me, this idea. No. Have you come to a full understanding of who you really are? Because once you know who you are, you understand there is now no reason other than your own laziness and excuses, and honestly lack of ultimately desire to seek after higher knowledge, higher light, higher truth, a higher lifestyle. It is the pain of your laziness, of your slothfulness, that is the only thing that can keep you from that. Because ultimately, is this knowledge within everyone's grasp? Absolutely. Everyone can come to this knowledge. Ask and ye shall find. Why don't you seek after this knowledge from God himself? If you truly wanted to know, all the knowledge is out there. Even if it wasn't to come from prayer and God, if you want to make more money, you got to be kidding me. It's on YouTube. It's on Google at this point. There's so many answers. Now you might have to do some sifting, little test and trial and error to figure it out. But you know what? Everything great that's going to happen in your life is going to come through some testing, trial, and error. Look at someone who invented, airplanes or the car. Do you think they tested a bunch of things? Do you think they lost a little bit of money in that pursuit? Yeah. But you're not willing to put in the work to lose in order to gain. You're not willing, and I guess really what it comes down to is one word. You're not willing to sacrifice anything. You're not willing to sacrifice $10, $97. Hell, you're not willing to sacrifice $10,000. What is $10,000 if it means that you're going to learn how to make 6 figures? What is $10 million if it ultimately ends up in you being worth $100 million? And is that not ultimately the price to be paid? Right? If you want to make more money, someone who's wants to learn how to make $10,000 a month, you're going to have to be willing to lose a couple $1,000s in that pursuit. Right? If you want to learn how to make 7 figures, guess what? You might have to be willing to lose 100 grand. It just happens. And there's a price to be paid at every level. In order to ascend to the next level, you must be willing to pay the greater price. Everything, the law of this universe, the law that God has established, is the most valuable things cost the most money, or they cost the most in anything. It doesn't have to be money. It costs the most in your sacrifice, because that is the price. When you pay a price for something greater, we call that sacrifice. So if you work, if you're not lazy, and sometimes it doesn't have to just be money. Sometimes the sacrifice is your time, your energy, your comfort. Those are the sacrifices that need to be made. And if you're willing to pay that price and you understand who you are, then you'll be driven beyond all, accounting and all measure, that you will pay the price to get there. Because when you have that understanding, you realize anything less than that is going to be complete hell on earth for you. If you do not pay the price to become who you're supposed to become, the amount that you fell short will be the level of hell you experience. And it is a great hell that you will live for with all eternity. So, what is the number one reason? Ultimately, it's because you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, you're not willing to pay the price to know. Once you know these things, it doesn't matter. All these things that get in your way, they're so small. Everything becomes small in that pursuit. Losing 10 grand, going into credit card debt, having a car get repossessed, losing your house, whatever it is, bankruptcy, big deal. That's one of the greatest things about being around high-level people is they laugh at your problems. You have $1 million problems? Oh, this is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I thought I was having problems losing a lot of money. I was losing millions of dollars talking to somebody who does billions in real estate, or maybe hundreds of millions. I'm not positive it's billions, to be honest. But hundreds of millions of real estate, and they laughed. Like, okay, talk to me when you're dealing with $10 million losses. Like, well, okay, that makes you feel better. Like, it really does. It makes me feel a whole lot better. So what's keeping people from there? Number one, you don't know who you are. Number two, you're not willing to pay the price to find out. You're not willing to sacrifice in the pursuit of what it is. You're too lazy, too slothful, too cowardly. Any of those things, you're not willing to pay the price. And so you don't deserve it. Why should you get it versus that person who gained, who paid the ultimate price to be there? You shouldn't. And you're not gonna. And if you do get it, guess what? You don't deserve it, you're gonna lose it. I can promise you one thing. Unearned knowledge and unearned wealth is always lost. Always lost. Look at people who win the lottery. Look at people who go to the NFL or MLB and they never learn the rules of money. Most of them end up losing it because they weren't willing to pay the price, even just to learn how to manage it, for hell's sakes. I mean, one of the easiest things, where you get a couple $100 million, you can't learn how to keep some of that? Can't even make this stuff up, right? I mean, like, why are you not where you're at? Because you're fucking lazy and not willing to pay the price. You have any idea the price I've paid or Jacob's paid or any of these high-level people have paid? You don't want to deal with that kind of pain and suffering. And if you do, welcome to the club. Honestly, I'd love to have a drink with you because you're someone who I want to get to know. You're willing to pay that price? Awesome. I want you in my circle.